So ever since the Boston Celtics traded Jalen Brown to the Philadelphia 76ers, one comparison has been everywhere. The Celtics reportedly believe that Payton Pritchard can make the same kind of leap that Jalen Brunson made when he left Dallas. At first it sounds ridiculous. Brunson is one of the NBA's biggest stars. He just came off of a Finals MVP, leading the Knicks to their first championship in a few decades. But when you really look into their careers and the comparisons, it might not be as crazy as you think. So yes, we all know by now Jalen Brown is gone. He was traded to the Philadelphia 76ers for Paul George and a couple picks. Boston suddenly needs another scorer. And while Paul George is a decent scorer for his age, coming off of 17 points per game, 44% from the field, Jalen Brown's coming off of a season where he averaged almost 29 points per game and was an MVP candidate. And while I don't think the Celtics' plan is to replace that with one player, there's no denying what Pritchard did when Brown was off the court last year. Now, this is a small sample size, but Payton Pritchard in 10 games last year without Jalen Brown averaged 25 points a game, 7 assists, and 5 boards, much more productive than his 17, 5, and 4 he averaged throughout the entire season. And again, in another very small sample size, Payton Pritchard without Jalen Brown and with Jason Tatum last year dropped 36, 7, and 4, 28, 6, and 6, and 23, 3, and 6. So without Jalen Brown and with Tatum on the floor, he was able to flourish a lot more. Tatum, it's no secret, is a better playmaker. He definitely has the better passing ability out of the two, and he will find his teammates open a lot more. And it seems like the Celtics front office sees big things for Pritchard in the future. Per Tom Haberstroh of Yahoo Sports, quote, "The Celtics trading Jalen Brown is a bet that Payton Pritchard is their in-house version of New York Knicks guard Jalen Brunson, a diminutive player who didn't fully show his talents until Luka Doncic was out of the picture." But before we decide if that's realistic, let's rewind a few years. In the 2018 NBA draft, the Dallas Mavericks selected Jalen Brunson with the 33rd overall pick. In his first season in the NBA, Brunson would go on to average 9 points a game and 3 assists a game. But Jalen Brunson wasn't looked at as being the future franchise of a team like he is now. Because in that same draft, with a 3rd overall pick, the Dallas Mavericks selected Luka Doncic. In his first season, he would go on to average 21, 6, and 8, and came away winning the Rookie of the Year. And while Brunson continued to get better and show real promise, so did Luka. Fast forward to the 2021-2022 NBA season, Jalen Brunson was the Mavs' 3rd leading scorer behind Luka and Kristaps Porzingis. They made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals, where they were eventually defeated by the NBA champion Golden State Warriors that year. And in the 2022 NBA offseason, there were big questions for the Mavericks. Jalen Brunson was an unrestricted free agent, and he decided to sign a 4-year, $104 million contract with the New York Knicks. This could potentially be looked at as one of the greatest free agent signings of the century, because in his first season with the Knicks, he went from averaging 16 points for the Mavs to 24 points a game with the Knicks and adding in 6 assists. He was even 12th in MVP voting, something he had never been considered for in his career. Now, the circumstances with the Knicks when he joined were a little different. He went from having Luka as his number 1 option to Julius Randle, which allowed him to have the ball a lot more and create his own shot, rather than playing with a ball-dominant guard such as Luka. Brunson instantly became a perennial all-star with the Knicks, but nobody thought Brunson would become this player. Now, there's no denying the similarities between Brunson and Pritchard. They're both undersized guards. They were winners in college. Brunson was a backup early. Payton Pritchard has won 6th Man of the Year. He has often came off the bench. And both players had this in common. Every time their role increased, they produced. So with Jalen Brown leaving the picture in Boston, could Pritchard see that same type of rise that Jalen Brunson did when he went to the Knicks? Here's where I think people are getting a little carried away. The comparison isn't that Payton Pritchard will become Jalen Brunson, it's that Boston believes he can make a Brunson-type leap. Brunson became the primary ball handler, an offensive engine, a franchise player. And Pritchard could become a 20-point-per-game scorer, starting point guard, second option behind Tatum. But those aren't the same thing, and that's an important distinction. So I don't see Pritchard becoming a top 10 NBA player like Brunson and putting the franchise on his back and becoming a finals MVP and carrying a team to a championship, but I do think there is a real chance he could average 21, 22 points a game, 6 assists, and become a crucial part of what the Boston Celtics want to do. Now, barring any major shakeups for the Boston Celtics, he should see more minutes, more shot attempts, more pick and roll opportunities, and more ball handling responsibility when Tatum is off the floor. And I do think this is a real thought for Brad Stevens. In his recent press conference, he talked about how Jalen and Jason were taking up about 70% of the cap, but also most of the usage on the team. So maybe Brad does see something that could allow Pritchard to have that Brunson-type leap. Brad Stevens didn't just come out and say his expectations for Pritchard in the future, but if you listen to him, it's easy to draw that connection.
I do think in building a team and having the optionality that we now have moving forward, we have both really good young depth, some guys that I think will not only be good in the near term, but just continue to get better.
Nobody knows how Pritchard's career will turn out after this Jalen Brown trade, but I do think one thing is clear. Brad Stevens and the Celtics front office made a bet, not just on Paul George, not just on Payton Pritchard, but the entirety of the young core and the pieces that you can put around Jason Tatum. And of course, there's always the option that Brad Stevens could go big game hunting and go for a future star that may not have requested a trade yet, but could be coming in the future. And that obviously could derail any Payton Pritchard, Jalen Brunson type rise. But I do think this upcoming season is huge for Pritchard and his future. If he can step in and the Celtics can remain one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, then not only will the Jalen Brown trade look a lot better for Brad Stevens, but you gotta think it'll also land Payton Pritchard a big contract in his future. So that's my opinion on this situation. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this video if you like this kind of content, but I want to hear from you guys. Do you think Pritchard can have that same type of Brunson-like leap for the Celtics next year, or are Celtics fans getting a little too carried away?